Who are you? What's your role? And where do you work?
Yeah, I'm Sudeep Goswami. I'm the CEO of Traffic Labs.
Sudeep, what would you like to share with us today?
We have a lot of exciting things that we've been building over the past few months, and love to kind of talk to you about that. Traffic Labs has been around for a few years, starting with the open source project Traffic Proxy, which became extremely popular with over 3.3 billion downloads and over 50,000 GitHub stars. And what we have been busy building is this API runtime infrastructure through which we can expose any API securely and share that with developers and other consumers of APIs. And that has many different parts to it that we can go through during the rest of the conversation.
In terms of the problems or the pain points that you're tackling, could you explain a little bit more about that? What are the things that you're helping engineers make their lives easier?
Yeah, in a nutshell, what we do is we're allowing DevOps and platform engineers and also kind of software developers to be able to expose their microservices and APIs in a matter of minutes, what takes weeks and sometimes months to stand up from an infrastructure perspective.
And in terms of, the before and after leading up to this point, and then now, after the announcement, what are in terms of the context, but then also looking forward to the next steps, what's the situation there?
Yeah, so let me take a step back and kind of walk you through kind of the capabilities of this API runtime infrastructure that we provide. First and foremost, it starts with our ability to get installed in a Kubernetes native environment and be able to auto discover all of the services that are running. So we give our operators, specifically the DevOps and platform engineers, full visibility into every microservice that is running in that environment. And then from there, what they can do is they can pick and choose which ones they want to expose and how, whether they want to expose that just as a service or they want to expose it as an API, put an API wrapper around it, and then expose it to the outside world. And we don't just stop there. Then what we can do is provide additional layers of authentication and authorization, which is pretty standard these days, using some type of a common, like a open standard framework like OIDC to be able to provide the authentication authorization framework. We can also provide like distributor rate limiting, distributor certificates management, just making it much easier for them to have this scalable infrastructure to expose those services or APIs. And then from there, if customers or users are needing kind of API lifecycle management, for instance, there are two sides to an API ecosystem. There is the API publishers and there are the API consumers. So we try to provide a rich experience for both of them. So on the API publisher side, what they would care about is the ongoing lifecycle management of those APIs, the change management of those APIs. So they want to have a very good way to version those APIs. They want to have a good way to observe those APIs and provide granular access control and security for those APIs. On the other hand, the API consumers, they want to be able to easily see all the APIs they have access to, or perhaps request access to, and then have an easy way to how to consume those APIs. And usually that is done through a developer portal that is very intuitive, that kind of allows them to view everything, allow them to test the APIs, and gives them instructions on how to use the APIs with either an API key or like a JOT key, for example. And so we don't just stop there, and there are other parts to the infrastructure that we provide. What's starting to become more and more popular is the use of a mocking API to accelerate the velocity of developers. And so what we now provide is a full mocking infrastructure that mimics the production API infrastructure. So giving developers the easy button to be able to bring in Open API spec file and the traffic infrastructure doing the rest of the magic, which is to create the mock APIs against that Open API spec file, deploying that mock API on an infrastructure, including API gateways and developer portals, and just giving them a link to the other developers on how to log in and view the mock APIs and consume the mock APIs. So it really accelerates the development velocity of different teams working together. And then the last piece that I think I'm the most excited about is launching an API AI gateway. because you can't have a discussion about APIs these days without also considering the AI side of the equation, because an AI can be and is starting to get consumed as an API. So this API infrastructure that we have built can easily integrate the AI traffic that is passing through an organization. Typically, what would happen is you would provide them a unified, turning any AI endpoint into an API that you can then manage through this life cycle. You can version those APIs, you can do change management to those APIs, you can observe those APIs. But on the back end, what they are is an API call to an AI LLM endpoint. So, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do is make it extremely easy for users to publish and consume APIs. Whether that API is a microservice, whether that API is an application, or whether that API is an AI endpoint.
With this in mind, is this open source and part of the CNCF landscape?
Part of this is open source. So the way to we make it very easy for people to get started on this journey. So what we talk about is a 3-part journey. The first part of journey is an application proxy, which allows you to auto discover the services and able to expose those services very easily to the outside world. And that has routing capabilities built in, that has load balancing capabilities built in, and it has the auto discovery feature. And the entire thing is fully declarative, which means users who want to do configure all of this through a GitOps operating model can do that. And that is a big differentiator for us. Is we're cloud native and also we're kube native, so you can really declare everything as code, and therefore you're able to do GitOps end to end. So this part is open source. Now, when users start to go and enable additional capabilities through an API gateway, so for example, they want to enable authentication, authorization, distributor rate limiting, distributor certificates management. Maybe they want to integrate with third-party like a HashiCorp Vault or Azure Key Vault. That's where they're going to need the paid functionality of what an API gateway brings. And what we have done is made the journey extremely seamless. So starting with the open source, all they need is to execute 3 Helm chart commands, which takes less than a minute. And we supply them the key, the license key, and they execute these 3 commands in less than a minute. They have upgraded, and they've done an in-place upgrade, preserving all of the previous configuration of the open source, and now they have an API gateway. And then the third step of this journey is to go from an API gateway to API management. And we have made that journey seamless as well. With just one Helm chart command, within 30 seconds, you have all of the capabilities of the API management platform. And what does that bring? The things that I mentioned earlier: API versioning, API security, API observability, a developer portal. All of that stuff comes with the API management capabilities, which is another upgrade on top of the API gateway.
And what's Traffic Labs' business model?
It's a software subscription. So the pricing model is it's an annual subscription, and you can do it annually or multi-year. You pay us for the software, and you subscribe to it on an annual basis. And the deployment model is on-prem. So we have the data plane can sit anywhere the customer chooses, whether their data plane is sitting on a public cloud somewhere, so let's say AKS, EKS, GKE, and others, or the data plane is sitting in their private cloud, for example. We are fully flexible in that. And we do have a small control plane that runs in the cloud, but that is just for basic administration capabilities. No traffic actually traverses the cloud. So it's a fully on-prem model. And that's where customers prefer to deploy it in that mode the most.
In looking at other actors, other companies that might be in the ecosystem, in terms of your competitors, who are they, and what differentiates Traffic Labs compared to them?
Yeah, I would say the biggest competitor that comes up often in discussions is Kong, and the 2 others that come up in addition to that are the public cloud providers, whether it's an AWS that have API gateway features but not API management, and also Azure API management. And the common thread across all of them that really differentiates Traffic is the ease of use that we provide. And the reason we're able to do that is because we are cloud native and kube native from the ground up. So everything that we do is fully declarative. Everything is as code. So as you know, we have a slogan that says like do less click ops and more get ops, where those other solutions are very UI driven, very click ops driven. And that's what differentiates us in this new age where DevOps and platform engineers prefer to have a CI/CD pipeline and do GitOps. Our technology, our solutions really allows that end to end.
Last but not least, what can we expect next from Traffic Labs?
We have many plans to continue to make things easy for our users, right? So the mission has always been since the beginning of the company on how to remove friction for our users in being able to have a very seamless and flexible API infrastructure. So we've been removing frictions along the way, and there's going to be more things that we're going to do here in terms of just kind of adding more capabilities around our API gateway, around our API management, around API mocking, and around AI gateway. And I think the foundation is there. We have a lot of the capabilities there, and just we're going to keep working closely with users and find additional friction points and continue to solve them and get rid of them for them.
Very much look forward to hearing the next steps. Before we finish, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's traefik.io, traefik.io. We have a bunch of information there. We have great ways for you to kind of watch videos. You can read a bunch of blogs that we have written. And if somebody wants to get hold of me personally, it's my first name at traefik.io. So it's Sudeep, Sudeep at traefik.io.
Well, thank you very much, Sudeep. We look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Bart.